All right, and welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Wrestling with Fans podcast. We are a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for fans from a fan's perspective. My name is Kyle, and this is episode 121, and we are live on the Wrestling with Fans YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so already, head over to youtube.com. Search for the Wrestling with Fans podcast. Click on the icon with the little blue logo, our brand new logo. Click subscribe. Hit that little bell icon to be notified whenever we post new content here on YouTube. You can also head over to facebook.com/Wrestling with Fans. Hulk smash that like button to keep up to date with everything we do here on the Wrestling with Fans podcast. You can find us on the web, download or stream the shows at any time over on our website, WrestlingWithFans.com. We live stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've been on Facebook. We are trying out YouTube tonight, see how that goes. New audio shows are posted every Thursday morning at 6 a.m., and you can find them wherever you get your podcast fix. Whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, and on Spotify. We are on all the big platforms to get your podcast fix. I also want to start streaming on Twitch. I've done a couple streams over there. Head over to twitch.tv/Wrestling with Fans and give us a follow. I'm also probably going to start streaming more here on YouTube as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the love on the last two podcasts that we've done. Didn't do an actual show last week, but the week before I released 2 episodes. The first one was a quick little podcast just talking about everything that's been going on. And then, based on a listener request, thanks again to Nick for requesting that episode, did February 20th, 1995 Monday Night Raw Watch Along. It has been a big hit, so I'm wondering if that is something you guys would be interested in. So if that is, make sure you reach out via Facebook, leave us a comment on YouTube, or you can shoot us an email at wwfshow@gmail.com. That's wwfshow@gmail.com to let us know what you'd like to see me and the crew cover. I am flying solo tonight. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to line up anybody else to join us. But that's alright, because we're just going to chat and see what all kinds of stuff we can talk about. There's been so much that's gone on since the last time I talked to you. I don't want to dwell too much on old stuff because, again, it is old stuff. But AEW's All Out 2 was a week and a half ago. I didn't really watch the show. I did see a lot of highlights and clips. I kind of wasn't sure what to expect from the Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy Mimosa Mayhem match, but to be perfectly honest, I thought it was pretty cool. I did enjoy that. And the Moxley and MJF match was absolutely great. I did love that. Then we had Raw, which was last week. It honestly gave me a headache. A lot of stuff didn't make sense. A lot of stuff just really irked me about Raw last week. And I really wanted to do a show on it, but I just never got around to getting down to record, unfortunately. But yeah, it just made my head hurt. And there were a few things on this week's Raw that kind of made my head hurt too, but I'll get to that here shortly. We also had NXT this past week, and a brand new NXT champion was crowned last week. The Prince himself, Finn Balor, is back on top of the black and gold brand in NXT. Really good match with Adam Cole, baby. Hope you guys enjoyed that match. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed everything that they were doing on NXT last week. Dynamite broke 1 million viewers for the first time in almost a year. Last, whatever day it was, Wednesday, Thursday? I'm not sure what day it was. It might have been on Wednesday. Which I thought was pretty cool. I really did enjoy that. So congrats to AEW breaking 1 million again. And then SmackDown, we had Bayley finally turning on Sasha. And I'm sure we'll get the fallout. We got the fallout from that last week. And then this week, we'll see where things go. But let's jump ahead. Let's talk about what we've seen this week. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw from last night, September the 14th. And I didn't watch the entire Raw, to be perfectly honest. I can't stay up until 11 p.m., which seems to be the case for a lot of people not wanting to watch that third hour. I guess I'll talk about it real quick. Monday Night Raw averaged 1.689 million viewers. That is according to Showbuzz Daily. It was the first episode of Raw to go up against Monday Night Football this year. Last week, Raw pulled in 1.725 million viewers average. Had a big drop off again in the third hour. Now, a lot of people just say the third hour isn't worth watching, whether that be from Raw Underground or the fact that the show is just extremely too long. Being on the East Coast, being in Maryland, 11 p.m. is very late to stay up to try to watch wrestling. When I was working full-time, before this lovely pandemic came in and kind of ruined that for the fall, I would get up at 4:30, 4:45 every morning, so staying up to 11 to watch Raw, only to get up 5.5 hours later and drive a bus full of children. Wasn't exactly the best idea for me. So I would always try to watch at least the first hour fully, pay attention to as much of the second hour as possible before going to bed. I know there are a lot of people on the East Coast who are probably the same way. If you've got to get up early to go to work the next morning, it's kind of hard when you lose a quarter, maybe even a third of the country, a third of your audience. You get up to go to work early the next morning. And I don't think I've heard a lot of wrestling media talk about that. I don't think I've heard many fans talk about that, but that's been something I've been saying for the last couple years, just because with my job having to get up early, it was nearly impossible to stay up till 11 o'clock on a Monday night to watch 3 hours of Raw and then get up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work. It just is not feasible for me to do. And I'm sure there are lots of other people out there who feel the same way, especially if there's children in the house, because I'm sure if you have kids, not really, doesn't matter the age, I guess, but you don't want them staying up until 11 o'clock either, especially if they're younger kids. We know WWE does like to target younger kids in their demographic, even though we all know the demo god, the 18 to 49 demo, but WWE does seem to cater more towards a younger audience. They skew to a younger audience, even though the demos say that they do get the older audience. So I'm assuming that these are parents with their kids. I know NXT always seemed to win the 50 and over demographic, killing AEW, even though AEW would consistently win the coveted 18 to 49 demo. So I'm just kind of wondering if losing a lot of viewers on the East Coast has come to hurt the WWE live audience recently. But that's just my take on it. I could be wrong. But let's talk about a few things from Raw last night, I guess. Let's just keep going here. We did have the in your face Monday Night Raw. Apparently, they were Monday Night Raw was in our face last night, and it kicked off the opening match. We'll just talk about matches here, and we'll talk about some other stuff kind of throughout. We opened with the Champs versus Champs, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, taking on the Raw Tag Team Champions Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, the Street Profits. Street Profits picking up the win in a very entertaining match in just under 9.5 minutes. Once again, Cesaro takes the pin because, of course, Cesaro takes the pin. I'm not a big fan of these champion versus champion non-title matches because one of your champions, no matter how it plays out, will always come up looking weaker. But the match itself was entertaining. I do love the Street Profits. I do love Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. 4 of my current favorite main roster stars in one match, and it was a great match, great match. And then we do end up getting Mr. O'Shea, Rick O'Shea, selling the absolute living hell out of a lumbar check in a defeat to Cedric Alexander. Fairly short match, not a lot of time given to him, but of course both of those guys are just absolutely amazing in the ring. Real fun match. Again, Ricochet selling the hell out of that lumbar check, flipping back up into the air. It looked really, really cool. And then the next match we have, the match was kind of forgettable. It's the ending is what everybody is talking about. And that, of course, is the Raw Women's Championship match between Asuka and Mickie James. Mickie did cut a nice promo before the match. And then Asuka had her entrance first. And then between the commercials and other backstage segments, kind of stood in the ring with her music playing, or what we will assume had her music playing, for about 5 or 6 minutes. And I don't know why WWE is hell-bent on doing that. They do an entrance pre-commercial. They come back. Then they go to other backstage segments and interviews and video packages and things like that. And then they go back to the ring for the person who had their entrance 5 minutes earlier. So I don't know why they can't just do these things before the commercial break and come into the entrance, or come in from the commercial break to these backstage segments, video packages, and then into the entrance. I don't know why you'd have someone standing in the ring for 5 minutes with their music playing, even though we know that the music probably stops and all of the stuff that's going on outside of the ring area is shown up on the Bigtron, or for those watching at home during the Thunderdome. At the beginning of that match, it went about 12 minutes. Asuka and Mickie James. The beginning of the match was really good. I really enjoyed the beginning. And as the match progressed, it got a little sloppy. It wasn't quite as snug. It looks like I don't want to say botches because they weren't really botches, but the moves weren't as snug. The timing wasn't perfect. The timing was a little off. Not taking away anything from either of them because both women are absolutely amazing in the ring. I do love Mickie James, and of course I do love me some Asuka. But the finish. Now, what happened is Asuka gets Mickie in the Asuka lock. The ref calls for the bell. Mickie is visibly confused. Even on commentary, you had, I don't know who was with him. Was it Michael Cole and Dolph Ziggler? I know Dolph Ziggler was on commentary. I think Tom Phillips was away. I'm not sure he was on commentary. All I remember is Dolph Ziggler, who did a really good job. That just shows how forgettable the commentary is. But everybody looks confused. Then a few people took to Twitter, including Mick Foley, who said that they're not sure maybe if Mickie James got injured and the ref called for the bell. Or, and it was even rumored that maybe her shoulder had popped out, and the ref noticed it quickly and called for the bell to end the match. However, Brian Alvarez, from over at Wrestling Observer Radio today stated that there is no injury to Mickie, that the finish of the match was screwed up. It was botched. I'll use botch in this instance, by the referee. So the referee completely screwed that finish up. Not really sure why he felt the need to stop the match. Maybe he thought he saw Mickie tap when she didn't. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Asuka was going to win this match regardless. They were given 12 minutes. Maybe they were supposed to get some more time. I'm not sure. But it was a very confusing, very, very confusing ending to the match. Hopefully we'll get a redo down the line somewhere with the referee that isn't quite as confused about the finish or how things go. And then afterwards we have Zelina Vega coming out, who previously had kind of stepped away from Andrade and Angel Garza, stating she's coming for Asuka next. So it would be nice to see Zelina Vega stepping out of a managerial role and back into the wrestling ring. Very talented wrestler, previously competing as a wrestler in Impact, and I believe Ring of Honor as well. She didn't do a lot of wrestling in NXT before being Andrade's manager, so it'd be nice to see Zelina getting back in the ring. Then we get the steel cage match between Seth Rollins and Dominic Mysterio. Seth picking up the win after 2 stomps in about 12 minutes. And I think this might be 5 months ongoing straight where Seth and or Buddy Murphy, and or Don't Call Me Buddy Murphy, facing Rey or Dominic Mysterio, or something going on with that storyline. That storyline has been going on pretty much since post-WrestleMania when Seth fought KO. He kind of went right into a program with Rey Mysterio and has been doing it ever since. Dominic continues to lose. They are protecting him because he is looking really, really strong in all of these matches. But he lost at SummerSlam to Seth. He lost on Raw 2 weeks ago on the 31st of August to Seth. And then loses again last night to Seth in a steel cage. He has picked up 2 tag team match victories with his father, Rey Mysterio, over Murphy and Seth Rollins. And did beat Murphy one-on-one last week in a street fight, which was, not too bad. But I don't know where exactly they're going to go with all of this. I mean, we had Seth and Rey seemingly nonstop. And now we moved on to Seth and Dominic, which seemingly will go on nonstop. I would really like to see this feud blow off and either, let Dominic move on to something else, let Seth move on to something else. Because I'm not really enjoying this anymore. I think we are way past where this feud should be. It's like the feud that never ends. I might need to make that into a song. The feud that never ends. Like the song that never ends. This is the feud that never ends. And there's a lot of those going on in Raw. The Street Profits versus Garza and Andrade seem to be never ending, but I think with Zelina walking away and Angel Garza walking out on Andrade last week, it seems we might be moving on from this feud. I'm hoping. Fingers are crossed. Also in there, too, we had Bobby Lashley defeating Eric of the Viking Raiders in under 2 minutes with the Hurt Lock, the Lashley Lock. I'm not sure what name they're using this week. I think it's the Hurt Lock. And I feel bad for Eric because with Ivar out after an injury last week on Raw in the 8-man tag match, he's going to be out for a while. Looks like he is set to go into surgery. So I wish Ivar a speedy recovery. Then we finally get to Raw Underground, and there was a lot going on in Raw Underground. Dolph Ziggler gets some action, and then for reasons, Braun Strowman shows up, defeats Dolph Ziggler and Riddick Moss, defeats Nick Stanley, defeats Riddick Moss again, defeats Titus O'Neil, and then later on beats up Ziggler and Moss some more. I guess now that you could just have people come in whenever they choose. I don't know why we get that kind of stuff, but reasons. I guess this is a way to keep Braun out of the Blue Universal title picture. I'm guessing, maybe. I'm not sure. Then we get another match that didn't really make a lot of sense. You had Kevin Owens defeating Aleister Black in about 4.5 minutes, decisively with a stunner. With something like that going on with the babyface picking up a decisive win against his heel opponent, that is usually a sign that the feud is over and both guys will be moving on. But this is WWE, and we don't exactly know where things are going to go. We still don't even know why Aleister Black has attacked Kevin Owens, while he's made it a crusade to go after Kevin Owens since having his eye injured at the hands of Murphy and Seth Rollins. And that's an inherent flaw for WWE, is that there's not a lot of motivation. We don't find what some of these heels are motivated about, why they seemingly go after certain baby faces and why they don't go after others. I have no idea why, but that's, just how it is, I guess. And then let's talk about the main event. Keith Lee and the WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre. Well, actually, there was one match in there we missed. Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott defeated Lana and Natalya in a little over a minute, with Shayna and Nia Jax on commentary. They were really good on commentary, but again, I don't know why you have the Riot Squad squashing Lana and Nat in about a minute. It kind of harkens back to the Divas era women's matches. But again, back to the main event, Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee. I did go back and watch this earlier today. And once again, we get a non-finish or some kind of bullshit finish involving Keith Lee. Let's go back to the August 24th Monday Night Raw. Randy Orton defeats Keith Lee by disqualification, which leads into their match at Payback on August 30th, where Keith Lee picked up a decisive win over Randy Orton. Real big first win after being moved over to Monday Night Raw. I was like, okay, they're going to do something good with Keith Lee here. The following night on Raw, they have him qualify for the triple threat match to determine the number one contender by beating Dolph Ziggler decisively. And then later in the night, losing to Randy Orton. Seth Rollins is also in that match. However, Seth Rollins is the one that took the pinfall. Keith Lee hit Seth Rollins with the pop-up powerbomb. Orton hit Lee with the RKO, but then Randy Orton went to pin Seth instead of Keith Lee. Then last week on Raw, we have Drew McIntyre getting involved, costing Keith Lee the match, losing via DQ to Randy Orton. And then we get another no contest last night. I have read some things where it looks like that while initially it seemed that WWE had big plans for Keith Lee after being moved over to Monday Night Raw, the new rumor and innuendo is that they don't have any definitive plans set up for him, which is a shame. Which is an absolute shame. because Keith Lee is something special. They built him up to finally dethrone Adam Cole, winning the NXT Championship from him. That's after capturing the NXT North American Championship just a few weeks earlier. Only for him to lose that belt about 6 weeks later to Karrion Kross, who was injured in the match. You had to drop that belt anyway. So Keith Lee, they built him up quickly. They took the strap off, moved him to Raw, and then just kind of have him stagnant. And I'm not a fan of it. I haven't been a fan of his wardrobe change. I definitely have not been a fan of his music changing. But Keith Lee has taken to Twitter to basically say, let the process happen. And I can't really argue with him. I'll just have to trust that he knows what he's doing there. But overall, from what I saw of Monday Night Raw, it was just kind of nothing too special. Alright guys, now let's talk about something different here. This came out last week. Like I said, since I didn't do a show last week, I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But the 2020 Pro Wrestling Illustrated's PWI 500 has been released. It was initially the top 25. The full list, the full 500 ranking, is now available. And coming in at the coveted number 1 spot is none other than the Lunatic Fringe Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, the AEW champion, is the wrestler of the year, the number 1 wrestler of the year, according to the PWI 500. Now, this is a totally kayfabe list. This has nothing to do with talent and skill, because the likes of John Cena and Hulk Hogan have topped the PWI 500. It is a total kayfabe list, taking into account many things from the past year, and I believe the period which they look at is June to June each year. And then the list comes out at the end of August. Or it's the September issue, I think. But let's talk about the top 10, where they were, where they're at now. Number 10 this year, the phenomenal AJ Styles, dropping 7 spots from number 3 to number 10. Number 9 is Kofi Kingston, dropping 5 spots from number 4 last year, coming in number 9. At number 8 this year is the previous year's number 1, the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, dropping 7 spots from last year. Number 7, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, who is up 8 spots. He was 15 in the 2019 PWI 500. Number 6, Kazuchika Okada, falling 1 spot, who came in at number 5 last year. Cracking the top 5, Tetsuya Naito, jumping up 20 spots year to year, coming in at 25 last year. And now we get into the top 4. Now, I would have been okay with any of these 4 being number 1. Realistically, more the top 3 I would have been okay with. Number 4 is Drew McIntyre, with a big jump of 32 spots from 36 last year, coming in at number 4. With the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, even though it was WrestleMania this year was very underwhelming, being in the Performance Center with no fans, he did have a very good kayfabe year. Number 3, from previously being unranked all the way up to number 3, is the demo god himself, Chris Jericho, number 3 in this year's PWI 500. You could make an argument with Jericho being the first ever AEW champion and his dominating performances as champion before losing to Jon Moxley earlier this year. You could easily make an argument that Jericho does deserve the number 1 spot in the PWI 500. But a wrestler who my personal pick would be for the number one kayfabe. Again, this is kayfabe list, guys. Number 2 this year would be my personal number 1 pick, and that is Adam Cole, baby. With the 430-some day reign as NXT champion. So, during the period for which they were determining this year's list, Adam Cole was NXT champion for all of that time, for the entire period. And it shows because last year he came in at number 18, so he has jumped up 16 spots to the number 2 list here in the PWI 500. And again, Moxley with the big jump from number 20 up 19 spots to number 1. I'm going to go through some of the list here. I'm going to pick out a few notables that I want to touch on. I'm not going to cover everybody, obviously, but speaking of Keith Lee, just a few minutes ago talking about Monday Night Raw, he jumped up 146 spots from 157 all the way up to number 11, barely missing out on the top 10. Number 12, the Beast Incarnate himself, Brock Lesnar, previously unranked the year before, in at number 12. Kenny Omega falls 5 spots from 8 to 13. The big dog, Roman Reigns, dropped 7 spots, coming in at number 14 this year. NWA World Champion Nick Aldis coming in at 15, rounding out the top 15 here, with a big jump of 26 spots from last year to this year. Bray Wyatt, number 16, a big jump after his transformation into the Fiend, up 153 spots to number 16 this year. The most recent Blue Universal Champion pre-Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, comes in at number 19, up from 27th the year before. Will Ospreay with the big drop from number 10 all the way down to number 21. In the reversal of that, a big jump, MJF, Jon Moxley's recent challenger for the AEW Championship, jumps from number 135 up 113 spots to number 22. NXT, I guess he's still the NXT UK champion, Walter, dropping some spots down to number 25. Shinsuke Nakamura bumping up 5 spots to number 26. The next member of the Undisputed Era with a big jump up 53 spots to number 29 is Roderick Strong. Tommaso Ciampa falling 17 spots to number 30 this year. And then I'll rattle off the next couple here because there's a few in here we'd like to talk about on here on the show. Daniel Bryan with the big drop from number 2 last year all the way to number 32. Hangman Adam Page up 11 spots to number 33. Finn Balor down 16 spots to number 35 this year. Kevin Owens bumping up 3 spots to number 37. Everybody's favorite heel, King Baron Corbin, in at number 41. Randy Orton coming in at number 48, dropping 10 spots. Let's see who else we want to touch on here. I've got Ricochet in at number 56. Former Impact champion Sami Callihan at number 57 with a big jump from 142 up to 57, an increase of 85 spots. And one of the biggest jumps that I have seen just kind of scanning this list, Sammy Guevara from 381 all the way up to number 61 on this year's list, up 320 spots. Real big jump. The original bro, Matt Riddle, dropping 11 spots from number 69 to number 80. Tessa Blanchard, the highest woman here on the list. Now, I think we talked about this a while back, that this year's PWI 500 was going to include women who wrestled either exclusively... Oh, I'm sorry, no, I apologize. I'm catching myself as I'm reading this because I skipped one. Kylie Rae at number 78 is the highest ranked woman. Tessa Blanchard coming in close behind at number 83. Interesting note here, you have Matt Jackson coming in at number 73 and Nick Jackson coming in at number 75. Pentagon Jr. sandwiched in between them both at number 74. Last year, Matt was 75, Nick was 76. So they kind of put Pentagon in there for some reason. I guess they figure Pentagon is better than Nick, but not quite as good as Matt. I guess. I don't know. I don't make the list. Matt Riddle's tag team partner Pete Dunne coming in at number 81. The Velveteen Dream with a big drop down to number 90. And rounding out the top 100, we'll stop at 100 here. John Morrison with a big drop of 71 all the way down to number 100. If you want to check out the full list, you can do so in this month's edition of the PWI 500. But speaking of lists, I was just perusing over on Bleacher Report before going live here. And they have their top 25 for this week. I'm not going to read the full top 25. If you want to check out that list, you can do so over at Bleacher Report. But we'll talk about the top 10. Be interesting. Let's just talk about the top 10. And starting us off at number 10 this week, the debuting Miro. I'm trying to think of something quippy to say beforehand, but the former Rusev, now known as Miro, the best man in AEW, cracking the top 10. Now, Miro had been kind of exclusively streaming on Twitch. And it kind of stated that he was kind of putting the world of professional wrestling behind him. And have been streaming on Twitch pretty much every day. And then now, he is in AEW. He is all elite. He's going to be Kip Sabian's best man in his wedding. And I think it's a great signing by AEW. I'm a big Miro fan. I'm a big Rusev fan. I thought Rusev Day was absolutely amazing, and WWE definitely dropped the ball with him. Not pulling the trigger to skyrocket him to the top, and then putting him in the Cuck marriage storyline there at the end of his WWE run is a shame. Miro deserved better, and I believe he will probably be getting better at his time in AEW. Coming in at number 9, again, this is Bleacher Report's top 25. We're looking at the top 10. At number 9 is the brand new NXT champion, Finn Balor. It says here, the analysis of Bleacher Report, the new NXT champion beat Adam Cole in an excellent title bout. Balor may be 39 years old, but nothing about him feels dated. He's still an impressive physical specimen, perfectly designed by the wrestling gods to execute the kind of matches NXT fans crave. Yes. I haven't really talked about it a lot here on the podcast, but having Finn Balor back in NXT I thought was a brilliant move. I'm assuming that Triple H pulled the trigger on that one and brought Finn Balor back down to NXT, where he will be used and has been used much better than he ever had been on Monday Night Raw, or I'm not even sure if he was on SmackDown, but we'll just say on the main roster. And I'm really glad to see Finn back on top of NXT. I think he'll make a good champ. Of course, I would have liked to have seen Adam Cole, baby, regain the championship, but I think it's time for him to move on to something else, and it's good to see the Prince back on top of the Black and Gold brand. Coming in at number 8 in Bleacher Report's top 25, MJF. falling a couple spots. They had him at number 5 last week. Number 7, falling 1 spot, is Keith Lee. Now, if they keep booking Keith Lee the way they have in the last few weeks, I continue to see him falling. Hopefully they can find a solid direction for him. That's my hope. That is my hope. But we'll see where things go. Number 6, the AEW TNT champion, Mr. Brody Lee. Now, I do love Brody Lee. I enjoyed him as Luke Harper in WWE. However, I have not been a fan of the open, I don't know how you use the parodying or the mocking of or the blatant ripoff of Mr. McMahon's character. Maybe not, I guess, Vince McMahon, but the Mr. McMahon character and Vince McMahon as a person. I think Brody is above that, and I'm not sure why they had him go down that route, but fans seem to like him. I have not personally, just because I wish he would separate himself from that completely and be his own man. But it seems to be working. I was, early on in AEW, I was not a fan of the Dark Order. I thought they were just a waste of space, a waste of time, and a waste of spots on the roster. But they are finally starting to bring it together, and I think that's helped once Brody Lee made his AEW debut as the Exalted One. I think they are finally starting to move in a much better direction with the Dark Order, to the point where I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of the Dark Order, but I don't instantly turn the TV off every time I see them come on Dynamite. Alright, so let's get past these couple here. Again, we're looking at Bleacher Report's top 25 for this week. Their number 5 is the AEW champion, Jon Moxley, after defeating MJF in a really good match at All Out. Looks like up next, he will have the Murder Hawk monster, Lance Archer. So it'll be interesting to see how they transition from MJF into Lance Archer. Archer winning the Battle Royale, Royal Rumble, whatever, the Casino Battle Royal. That's the name of it. I was drawing a blank there for a second. The Casino Battle Royal at All Out. Number 4, the Viper, Randy Orton. Number 3, the SmackDown Women's Champion, Bayley. Finally turning on Sasha a week and a half ago on SmackDown. Really interested to see where they keep pushing this heel character of Bayley. I've really enjoyed Bayley. I think at first it was laughable at her trying to be a heel. And I think over the last several months, she has really started to own this heel character. And I've loved the work she's done on SmackDown. I'm really looking forward to see where things go next. Number 2, the big dog, the Blue Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, who is now apparently a full-blown heel with Paul Heyman in his corner. He's going to have a match against one of the Usos at Clash of Champions for the Blue Universal title. And no surprise at all, number 1 this week for Bleacher Report's top 25 is the WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre. I'm really liking what they're doing with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. I just wish they would not use Keith Lee as kind of a pawn in their title feud. That is one thing that has really, really irked me over the last couple weeks. You have Keith Lee make this big debut, and he's kind of been just a pawn in the Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre story, which I have not been a fan of that portion of it. But, again, that's Bleacher Report's top 25. I just looked at the top 10. One other thing I want to touch on here before we wrap up the show. We're going to kind of encompass the last couple weeks of Monday Night Raw. And let's talk about Adam Pearce. Because Adam Pearce went from being just one of the guys, I mean, he's an agent, a producer. You would see occasionally in backstage segments or breaking up backstage fights, things like that. Then he was Mr. McMahon's mailboy to get the contract signed for Payback in the Triple Threat match. And now apparently he is running Monday Night Raw. In just a matter of a couple weeks. He went from nameless guy kind of in the background to Mr. McMahon's personal mail carrier stooge to now running Monday Night Raw. Haven't had any explanation as to why all of a sudden he seems to have authority or power or anything else. But I know it's wishful thinking because WWE don't like to explain things. And I really wish they would take the time and stop insulting our intelligence and just go ahead and, explain why they do certain things. I don't know if they think we don't pay attention, if we're not smart enough to pay attention. But it would be nice if we would get some kind of explanation for some of these things that go on TV. But that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for this week's episode, guys. If you haven't been able to tell by me talking for the last 45 minutes or so, I have not really been impressed with a lot of things that WWE has done in the last couple weeks. I really haven't been that impressed with what AEW's done in the last couple weeks. Like a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, that's the wrong term, but there was a portion of fans out there who are not a fan of All Out. I didn't watch the full show. I watched clips and a few matches that I wanted to see after the fact. Again, I enjoyed the Jericho Orange Cassidy stuff. I enjoyed the Moxley MJF stuff. I didn't really like a lot of the rest of the show. I'm not taking anything away from the performers on it. I think, again, and anything I say, I don't say negative, any critique or something I say I didn't like, that's just a personal preference, guys. Wrestling is subjective, like with everything you have an opinion on, it is subjective to your personal taste. There are a lot of people out there who do enjoy everything that AEW does because it's not WWE, and that's perfectly fine. There are some people out there who I think just blindly hate on anything WWE because they've been so burnt by them over the years, and I understand that. I'm not telling people they are right or wrong for liking or not liking certain things. But let me just say, I just want to say for the record, because I think sometimes certain people may misconstrue or twist my words. If I say I don't like something, I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying it's not something that I am interested in watching. It's not something I am interested in investing my time and effort in to paying attention to. There are other things that I do enjoy about certain programs and not others, but I'm not hating and saying something's bad. I'm just saying it's not. If I say I don't like it or if I wasn't a fan of it, that's all that is. I'm not taking anything away from the performers, the men or the women, because I'm sure that every single one of them is busting their ass night in and night out, and I will never, ever take that away from any of them. But again, I haven't really been too high on a lot of things that have been going on in wrestling lately. There have been a few high spots, and there have been several low spots. So what I may do this week, I haven't 100% decided yet. I'm recording this live. I've been kind of playing around in my head all afternoon. I may start doing watch-alongs as a supplemental podcast to this show. Maybe do 2 shows a week. Maybe make one of them YouTube exclusive. Maybe make one of them Patreon exclusive. Even free of charge to host it over there. But I had a lot of fun. And the little feedback that I did get from my watch-along last week was all positive. I was even asked if I knew all of the facts that I was spouting off the top of my head, and I had to admit that no. As much as I'd love to take credit for having all of that knowledge in my head from a Monday Night Raw from 25 years ago, some of that stuff I knew off the top of my head, but I also had the Wikipedia page pulled up, and I also had the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter from that week pulled up to get all of the little quips and other little things going on there. The only issue is some of the shows I like to do are going to be pay-per-views that are 3 hours long, and I'm not sure how many people would enjoy listening to me watch along a 3-hour show. Maybe I could start on some shorter Monday Night Raws, or maybe some matches in particular that are worth watching, and just upload those to YouTube, or maybe make an audio. I'll figure something out. But the fact that my watch-along show 2 weeks ago got more downloads than the actual podcast may be telling me something. But I can only go off the numbers. I don't get a lot of text message feedback or email feedback. I do get some word-of-mouth feedback for some people that I talk to on a regular basis who listen to the show and follow the show. Obviously, we're getting a lot of downloads on this show, more in the last couple weeks than we have in the last couple months, so I appreciate that. Thank you all so much for getting back into the show. Our numbers are slowly approaching our pre-global pandemic numbers. I know a lot of people tuned out over the last several months, but I think with AEW adding fans back into the mix, WWE adding the Performance Center trainees behind the plexiglass at first and now the Thunderdome, I think it is putting some eyes back on the products. Not as many as before. Especially now with the NFL being back. The NHL is getting close to the Stanley Cup Finals. You have the NBA playoffs are getting to the conference finals. You have Major League Baseball is in full swing. College football just started last week. So, to be perfectly honest, I expect some wrestling viewership numbers to probably decline slightly. People have been clamoring for their live sports. Maybe not so much their sports entertainment, but their live sports. And now all of the major sports are back and in full swing. So, for the next 16, 17 weeks, WWE on Monday night is going to have the juggernaut that is Monday Night Football to contend with. Now, not to get too political here, but I know viewership across the NFL is down yet again for various reasons. Some people may think it's over-politicized now with everything that's been going on socially in this country. But again, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't need to touch on it much more. So I'm really hoping that WWE doesn't try to hotshot everything on Monday night. I think this past week's Raw, last night's Monday Night Raw as I record this, was kind of hotshotted to maybe pop a number against the opening week of Monday Night Football, a doubleheader. And it's obvious by the numbers that did not work. They did drop in viewership from the week before. So, hopefully Vince and crew can start somewhere. And I think it's hurt them a lot with Paul Heyman being relieved of duty a while back. But I also think that they need to build long-term stories. And I think that is what's been wrong with WWE. They have been telling long-term stories. The Sasha Bayley thing went on seemingly forever. The Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza has gone on forever. Seth Rollins and Don't Call Me Betty Murphy against the Mysterio family has seemingly gone on forever. There really hasn't been much variation. So they have been telling stories long term, but the stories really aren't progressing. The only thing maybe in the Rollins and Murphy versus Mysterios is that once Ray got injured, his son Dominic got involved. But again, then that's been kind of stagnant for the last 2 months. So I'm hoping that WWE can get some other talent back. Roman Reigns is back, so that should hopefully give a boost to SmackDown. Sami Zayn just recently returned, jumping in the Intercontinental title feud over on SmackDown as well. So I'm really hoping that maybe a draft. There was rumors of a new draft or superstar shakeup or whatever term WWE wanted to throw at it this year coming in October. And I think it is long overdue. I think there really needs to be a shakeup with the whole global pandemic and lots of wrestlers electing to take time away from WWE during this time has really, really hurt the product. It's the same 8 to 10 people every Monday, every Friday. And I think we need a change of scenery. And I haven't even talked about Retribution. I guess I should probably talk about that. That just kind of dawned on me, talking about the same people over and over every week. Let me just take a second here. Let's talk Retribution. So last week on Raw, they made their first official promo. All the lights went out. We had a logo pop up on the Thunderdome screens. And then we had some guys standing in a dark room cutting a promo with voice changers on, giving them a deeper robotic voice. This week on Raw, last night on Raw, we got a similar thing. The lights went out. We get the logo popping up. And then we get another promo cut. And if they're going to unveil the members of Retribution, and it's the people who were in the promos the last 2 weeks, I know 4 of them pretty much guaranteed. The 5th one, it's up in the air. But the 2 females of the group, Mercedes Martinez, who was doing all the talking, and the other female last night was very obviously Mia Yim. You could tell from her eyes. The male that was doing all the talking seems to be pretty much Dominik Dijakovic. And the other large male, the black male, looks to be Dio Madden, who had a brief run on commentary on Monday Night Raw a while back. The 5th one, I've seen several names, but the kind of one I'm going with is Shane Thorne. Not 100%. And then after they cut this little promo, you had several more members with masks and hoods kind of fill in the background shot. So I don't know if they're going to go with just an initial 5 and just have other faceless, masked people be involved as well. But let me just take a moment. The 2 promos they cut, nobody talks like that. Nobody is really going to come out and use these catchphrases and these keywords if you're really about retribution and changing things and all of that stuff. You're not going to talk like that. So right there, they're already starting to lose me on Retribution. And they've almost kind of seemed like to be able to hack in, similar to the SmackDown hacker that was seemingly dropped once Mustafa Ali was moved to Monday Night Raw. So I don't know if they could tie... I mean, if they could tie those 2 stories in, that the hacker is now on Raw, it's Mustafa Ali, and he is somehow being paid off by Retribution for them to be able to hack into the Thunderdome and turn off the lights and change the Thunderdome screens to run their promo, I'd be okay with that because that would kind of make sense. Otherwise, I'm not sure how you're going to have the 5 people who are in frame, 2 of them are cutting this promo, hack into the TV cameras, and not the TV cameras, but the Thunderdome screens, and be able to run this stuff if they're all staying there together. So there must be somebody behind the scenes either allowing it to happen or it's just happening because reasons. But I'm quickly losing interest in Retribution. I know there are others out there who are losing interest in Retribution. So I'm really hoping they do something big with these guys soon, or else it's just going to fall flat on its face. But, anyways, we're at an hour, and I think it's just about time for me to wrap up. I don't really have anything else major I want to talk about. There's a lot of things that I should have talked about had I done a show last week, but, things happen. And again, I might even do another watch-along of a short show or a couple matches, something interesting, because people seem to like those. The numbers don't lie. Back to the point I was making before I jumped off the Retribution tangent. So if there's something you would like me or us, Jen, Jason, maybe even Bobby, if we get him back again, to do a watch-along style, let us know. Shoot us a message on the Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling with fans. Hawk, smash that like button while you're over there. Shoot us an email, wwfshow@gmail.com. That is wwfshow@gmail.com. Put watch along in the subject. Let me know what you would like us to cover, what you would like us to watch along and talk about. They're a lot of fun to do. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are live on YouTube this week. I decided not to do it on Facebook. I decided to try to do the live stream of this show over on YouTube to maybe bring a few more eyes to the YouTube channel. I've been uploading some videos, trying to get at least one a week out. I have a lot of stuff. Trying to do too much at once. And I need to concentrate more on just getting certain tasks done. So that is going to be my focus for the rest of this week, is getting this content ready to go. Got a couple, I got one Fig Hunt video released. I have a couple Fig unboxings released on YouTube. I've got my second Fig Hunt video from a couple weeks ago with Jennifer and Jason and myself going out hitting a few stores, picking up a few figs while I was out. I've got those unboxings to do. If you watched the first Fig Hunt video, you saw that I picked up the Greg the Hammer Valentine Chase variant. That unboxing video just hit YouTube the other day. I've got a Bobby the Brain Heenan Legend Series 7 unboxing on there. I also have the Razor Ramon figure. I've got that whole Legend Series 7 line, so I've got to put the Razor Ramon figure unboxing up there as well. And then I'm also going to take all of the unboxing videos that have hit the Facebook page. I'm going to give them a little makeover, YouTube style, and upload them to the YouTube channel as well. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, youtube.com. Search Wrestling with Fans Podcast. Click on the one with the brand new blue logo that I just updated last week. Click that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon to get your notifications whenever new videos or live streams go up. I think I'm going to start live streaming some gaming periodically. I've been talking about it. Original host Chris Howe and I have been talking about streaming some games, so maybe I'll be able to get Chris on board to stream some games with me on the YouTube channel. I definitely will be picking up the new Call of Duty coming up. I know I'm kind of going off of wrestling on other things, but bear with me. It's the end of the show. Definitely going to be picking up Call of Duty Cold War when it comes out. So if you're a fan of Call of Duty, make sure you follow the channel. Also on Twitch, twitch.tv/wrestling with fans. Give us a follow. We'd appreciate it. I'd like to start streaming on Twitch as well. Mix it up a little bit. Broaden the horizons. I do have an Instagram account for Wrestling with Fans. I've got my personal Instagram. I also have a Wrestling with Fans Instagram. I haven't posted anything to it yet, so once I start posting, I'll make sure I put links to that up on the Facebook page and on all the social medias. My goal for the rest of 2020, between now and the end of the year, is to try to get more eyes on this podcast, whether that be through the audio shows, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, streaming on Twitch, using Instagram. I have Twitter. I don't use Twitter. I don't tweet. I have Twitter to get news and to read other tweets, but I don't do a lot of tweeting myself. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you feel free to do so. It's at I Like to Podcast. just like it sounds, at I Like to Podcast. That is my Twitter handle, because I do like to podcast. But that's going to be a wrap for episode 121 of the Wrestling with Fans podcast. I see a few people did come over to YouTube, had a couple of views over here. Not a lot. Not as many as we get on Facebook. Facebook, we do get quite a few. So we may have to go back to the Facebook streams. But I just want to try the YouTube out this week, see how it goes. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you all for listening. We will see you here next week. This has been Wrestling with Fans.